I'm so excited that you guys are all here. So I have a feeling that some of you don't know what a capstone is, so I'm just going to tell you. The capstone is the final protective stone that forms the top of something being built. It's the culmination of the blood, the sweat, and the tears that go into creating a masterpiece. It's the final touch, the last effort, the push for completion. Students everywhere leave their undergraduate education with so many emotions. They're excited, they're confused, and sometimes they have a primal fear. They're riddled with questions like, what did I just do for the last 4 to 6 years? What am I going to do now? Did I stay long enough? Did I incubate long enough to join the workforce? Am I good, strong, smart enough? Do I have what it takes? This capstone process is multifaceted. It's a journey of exploration into those questions, and also the questions of our innermost selves. The 3 students that will speak to you today have taken a dive into their hearts, minds, and their educations. They've done the work of building the foundation for their future, and I've been lucky enough to watch this process, to see them become pregnant with an idea and watch it develop into something beautiful. It's my honor and my pleasure to watch 3 women who will most certainly change the world for the better speak to you today from their hearts. They have fearlessly sought threads or connections that have always been present within their souls. And they have built upon those threads to create the masterpiece of this talk and of their future. Next, we'll hear from Kendra. Kendra is a straight-up badass. She's, excuse my language, but let's be real about who I am. She's climbed 40, that's right, 40, 14ers. She's strong, confident, outgoing, and stoic. She has a degree in culinary arts from the Culinary Art Institute of America. She used to do burlesque and has completed a triathlon. I feel honored to know this wild and wonderful woman, and I can't wait for you to hear her roar. Kendra.
Feel free to take a deep breath with me if you'd like. What does it mean for humans to be wild? We consider this prehistoric being to be wild. Some would treat these women like wild animals for dancing around naked and free underneath the rain. Or are we wild only when we have walked miles and miles deep into the forest, amongst pure nature, amongst the wild animals, and far, far away from human civilization? Wild is all of these things and more. It is any living entity exhibiting natural, intuitive, and primal characteristics. It appears that freedom has an underlying correlation to wild. The ability to choose for yourself, to generate your own opinion, to live according to your own nature. This is freedom. In our current civilized Western society, living wild, uncontrolled, and outside of societal norms is criticized. The American dream is tamed within the confines of the white picket fence, instead of primal and intuitive, where it once lived free amongst the wilderness. I feel free when I am floating on my snowboard, hiking in the trees, climbing to the top of a mountain, or when I am on an adventure. Some would call these moments of wildness moments of awe, when we are doing what comes to us naturally and using our inner flow. Confucius would describe this as wu wei, non-doing, or acting without thinking. Taoism would say these moments are experienced when we are in complete attunement to nature. And within attunement, we are given total freedom. Deepak Chopra would call this increased consciousness, or transcending to a level of spirituality. I believe that wildness is connected to our intuition. It is our hidden primal self longing to be awakened. And once activated, we begin to feel at home. Throughout my time as a student, I have discovered that my fellow classmates and I share a common thread uniting us together with the rest of humankind. That thread is trauma. Mark Epstein, author of The Trauma of Everyday Life, confirms trauma is an indivisible part of human existence. It takes many forms, but spares no one. Clearly, we cannot escape this life without death. And in this same sense, we also cannot experience this life without trauma. Simply put, trauma is any deeply distressing or disturbing experience. This experience can be a singular incident, or it can become long-lasting and chronic. It can affect us indirectly or directly. Sometimes the process of walking through trauma can lead to extreme pain. Pain that might cause the contemplation of existence or push someone to their breaking point. But as I have learned, the journey through trauma can be either a detrimental place or an opportunity for extreme growth and healing. Dr. Richard Tedeschi coined the term post-traumatic growth, the process after a distressing event that can create opportunities for positive change, increase a sense of personal strength, a greater appreciation for life, and a deepening in spirituality. I spent much of my teenage and young adulthood depressed and caught up in the downward spiral of addiction and alcoholism, always searching for happiness outside of myself. I was constantly looking at the ground and allowing the dark clouds to follow me everywhere I went. Just as soon as I began to see the light in my early recovery, the ultimate trauma flooded me with infinite sadness. My father's suicide left a cold and icy sheen over my heart. Inside, I became empty and hollow. I had come to know my deepest pain, all-encompassing, physically, mentally, spiritually. The sudden shock and stigma behind suicide had left a psychic numbing on my soul. My grief was an untouched wilderness, vast, cold, filled with jagged mountains and inhospitable forest. Although the clock never stopped ticking, it took about a year before I ever noticed the days moving before my eyes. Within that year following my dad's death, I realized I had to journey through the wilderness. I found myself back in college, confused about my life, questioning my own existence, and sitting in Dr. Risman's holistic approach to depression. There I sat, amidst my own darkness, fighting my own depression and bushwhacking through the wilderness of suicide grief. I can't tell you exactly when it happened, or even when I began to notice, but somewhere in the middle of my time as an integrative healthcare student, I stopped looking down at the dirty ground, seeing only darkness, and I began to look up. All of my senses came alive, and I began to notice every detail within nature. I could feel the warming rays of the sun on my skin and I noticed these rays thawing the frozen tree limbs above my head. It was as if I was a budding tree, thawing from the harshness of winter's cold, rebirthing from my trauma and emerging into a delicate flower. I had found a calm and tranquil trail to walk upon in the wilderness of my grief, and I found that trail literally within the healing powers of nature. My father was a mountaineer, an adventurer, a backcountry skier, a hiker, a climber, a whitewater river rafter, an archaeologist. And I decided I would not allow his legacy to die alongside the stigma of suicide. Instead, I would live on his legacy through my own exploration of his craft, through adventure, and through nature. Little did I know, I would actually come to find myself on this journey. As I peeled off my layers of grief and agony through my own exploration of the wilderness, I developed a fond interest in the inquiry of nature-based therapies. If I could heal from such an immense trauma through nature, others could also experience this revelation. Many studies have shown the effects of nature to reduce stress, anxiety, and blood pressure, while increasing positive emotions, improving cognitive and social functioning, and accelerating the body's natural defense against illness. Nature-based therapies show beneficial effects to sexual assault victims, substance abuse sufferers, at-risk youth, and astonishing research shows the need for these type of therapies in veterans to reduce symptoms of post-traumatic stress. In this study, 30 veterans took part in a 4-day river rafting wilderness expedition, incorporating daily hikes, nightly campfires, and time for reflection. Nature had taken on the role of a co-therapist, and veterans of this study reported decreased symptoms of PTSD, negative mood states, and had developed a sense of identity, purpose, and place amongst the wilderness. One anonymous veteran of this study disclosed, "This wilderness trip made me realize that I could experience joy again." During Dr. Emery Wilder's Health, Society, and the Environment, I read the book, My Name is Shalise, and I'm in recovery from Western civilization. Author Glendening discusses the tame-wild dichotomy, the idea that our current developed society originated from the dawn of agriculture. And because of it, the human became separated from the rest of the wilderness. The agricultural fence became the ultimate symbol of development, and anything existing outside of it was wild, something to be feared, and something needing to be tamed. Prior to this, humans had participated in the evolution of the wilderness. We are creatures meant to live in synchronicity with nature. Nature heals because of the simple truth that the human brain evolved alongside of it. Our separation from the wilderness, according to Glendening, has formed the basis of our original trauma. Original trauma being the disorientation we experience, whether consciously or unconsciously, because we no longer live in synchronicity with the wilderness. Our original trauma has been passed from person to person, generation to generation, and culture to culture. This prehistoric being was indeed wild. Her mind evolved alongside the plants, the animals, the rivers, the oceans, and the mountains. We are in a time when humans have become trapped within the confines of the concrete jungle and are now more distanced from the wilderness than ever before. We have become the lion in the zoo, looking out at the wild from behind an iron fence. But all is not lost, because this being is our ancestor. Her primal instinct to be wild flows through our blood. So take off that mask, covering your primal self, and embrace your raw force and intuitive wild nature. Albert Einstein puts it quite simply. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind, a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. We can heal and transform from our trauma, from our original trauma, as long as we are willing to journey through the wilderness. Nature and wilderness experiences are a catalyst for post-traumatic growth. I'm not entirely sure how my nature-based therapy organization will manifest, but my future outside of these classrooms is calling me to focus on this work. My dad always used to say, find something that you love to do, because if you love what you do, then you'll never work a day in your life. It appears that my path is to help others experience their moments of awe and unleash their wildness through adventure and through nature. Thank you.
So we just want to take a moment to say some thank yous. First, we want to thank Chelsea and the Cavia staff. You guys have been so awesome in helping us out in this space and also with our slides. And I mean, you guys have been amazing. Thank you. We want to thank the professionalism class for the goodies that were given to us before class, as well as all the marketing and all of the work that you guys have done. We really appreciate you all. We want to thank the IHC Club and all of you guys for coming to support our students, because this is a huge deal, and seeing so many supportive faces is what makes us keep doing this. So thank you all for being here. And let's see if I can make it through this without crying. Before we leave, we just want to take a moment to honor Dr. Emily. This Capstone class has been her child. She's created it from nothing. And even though every student struggles through every single piece of this class, we're so grateful on the other end. We're completely changed as human beings. This is the last time that she'll be teaching this class, as she's been given a promotion and now she's the chair of the department, which is exciting, yay. And so we just want to thank you, Emily, for pushing us to be our best selves, and for fostering a deep love of learning and exploring in our hearts. We love you. Thank you and good afternoon.